I got a treat for you. You're gonna be so happy to be here. Let me put this here. Let me put this there. You're gonna be so happy that you tuned in for your favorite thing in the world. Oh, you're gonna be so happy. Your favorite creator, Wick TV, and your favorite debate ever. And your favorite debate ever.
Why is now the occasion to introduce that tradition?
What tradition? Confronting. No, that's not it. Video. Where is the... Hey, what the hell? There we go.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. I'm gonna find it. We're gonna find it no matter what. There we go. ShortFatOtaku versus Briana Wu. Old enemies meet once again. All your favorite creators and politicians, serious people in the space. We have Wick, we have Briana Wu, and finally, the esteemed ShortFatOtaku. Remember, Lulu, if Wick can get monetization, so can you. We're actually getting close. Believe it or not, we're actually getting close to monetization now. We're at 984 subscribers. So we can get monetization in 16 subscribers. Just 16 subscribers. Come on, recommend me to all your friends at home. Just 16 more. That's true. Short Fat Otaku.
Hey, welcome.
K. Welcome one and all and one. Till all are one. Just like in the Transformers.
Welcome one and all.
One and all, yeah.
Another episode of Wick TV.
Tell me if it's too loud. Why is your microphone so awful? Are these actually notable people? I think I saw one of them on Sunday stream, but I'm not. No, they are not actually notable people. That was all sarcasm. I apologize. I should have indicated as much. So I will do it now. It was all sarcasm. They are not noteworthy people. No, they're not notable or noteworthy. No. My apologies for not making that actually clear. Yo, we're gonna play Go while we do this. Tell me if the audio is too loud. Wait, I'm gonna listen in myself.
A cross-ideological platform.
It's too loud. I can already hear that it's too loud.
Where we can come together to talk about issues, both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And gang, we have a show for you today. Many moons ago, years ago.
What a soft voice Wick has. Amazing. Okay, let's listen. Let's not even... It's Skeletor, I think. Let's not even prolong this. Let's just jump in.
Mortal enemies. A battlefield littered with rhetorical...
Mortal enemies. It is really sad for Briana Wu if her mortal enemy is ShortFatOtaku. It really tells us a lot of her status as a serious actor in this space. You can really tell a lot about a person based on who their enemies are. Just saying.
Corpses and champions on either side standing strong, eyeing each other across a moonlit field.
Can you get to it, please? You're not as good as this as you think you are.
Swords at the ready, blood staining everything they did. Today,
Enough!
however, both
Yes.
sit before you, right? In a much more peaceful setting, a calm setting. And we're going to discuss, well, all sorts of things today. We have the wonderful Briana Wu here. Welcome, welcome. And is joined by also the equally wonderful ShortFatOtaku, or Dev, as he is known. Welcome to you, both of you. How are you guys doing today?
I'm feeling it. It's been a crazy day. But I do agree with
I'm
when I
feeling
think
it.
of your show, I think of peace. I think of calm discussions.
Are we talking about the same show? It wasn't peace and a calm discussion when I was on it to discuss affirmative action. Has the show changed so much since I was last on it?
So I'm sure that will also happen today.
Wait, Wick, are you sure you're live?
Is it?
I'm looking at your YouTube and you're not up.
People are chatting in my space. I see. Yeah, I see faces on my live stream. YouTubers, am I live? Am I here? Can you hear me? Let's make sure. This is important.
Wick has been censored by big tech.
Wick doesn't even know if he's live or not. Am I live, chat? That I've been talking to so far? Am I live, chat? Is Lucy Haza actually live?
Might have. YouTube is up.
There we go. You just popped in. Okay.
Okay, it just took a minute. That sounds like a maybe a Canadian slowness. They're always a little bit behind the times. So
yeah, I'll real quickly. I'll tweet out that this is happening.
Beautiful.
Give me a second.
Thank you. But yeah, I wanted to just kind of get the temperature check, just in general. I know that there's been a lot of really heavy discourse of late online, and in spaces. So I just wanted to make sure, like, how are we feeling? Briana, you privated a bunch of your stuff today. What happened?
I'm just tired of getting yelled at by my own sidewalk. It's not more complicated than that.
By what? My own sidewalk? What does that mean? I'm so tired of being criticized. I should just not be criticized. Okay, Briana Wu. That's fine, Briana Wu. Just hate being criticized. That's fine.
No, I never privated my Twitter, even during Gamergate, and that's just how bad it's been lately.
Sure, whatever.
Yeah, there's nothing to it. It's just, I think it's, in Dev, I don't know how you feel, but I think it's really clear that a portion of my own movement has certainly been engaged in apologia for, October 7th. And I've tried to push back on that, even though I stand with you.
You should be quiet about this. You should be quiet about this. Everybody's an expert.
The Palestinian people, and it's just really been really unpleasant lately. I've had enough. That's it.
Unpleasant.
You here, Dev? You alive? You with us?
I'm posting the final message.
Okay. Let's let him get his tweet out.
I've just annoyingly added everyone in my Discord.
That'll work. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
But
we stop talking about a lot of things. That's true.
To that, right? You've been watching this from afar. I've seen you tweet on it. I've seen you reply to.
What does that mean? You've been watching it from afar? I've been watching things from afar.
Posts and things, Dev. What is your take on this whole situation?
No, don't. No, I really, really, really don't need ShortFatOtaku's take on this whole situation, in addition to all the other horrible No. 2 puff filters. I really don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't want.
On October 7th, like the Israel.
Well, no,
concert?
on the discourse surrounding it, to be clear.
Oh God, no.
It's cancerous, but
Yeah.
I expect that from the internet at this point. To be honest, I've seen so many.
You're part of it. Don't get on your high horse. ShortFatOtaku. Cancerous discourse is how you get your platform to where it is.
So many news cycles where people will take the most extreme version of events, push it just outside the realm of truth, so that people who agree with them still
Just outside of realm of truth.
still hold on to it because it's still somewhat truthful, and then they just run with the narrative, right? Like I've seen right wingers do this with a whole bunch of things concerning Trump. I've seen left wingers do this with a whole for the past 10 years. Discourse has been a
The
nightmare
enlightened centrist, of course.
online, in my opinion. I'm old enough to remember what it was like before.
Old enough.
I think it was still bad 10 years ago. I think it was bad 15 years ago. I think it is definitely getting worse. But I think part of that is, when you
You're
and
so old enough to remember the good old days that never existed.
I were growing up, Dev, and I assume we're roughly the same age because the music from your videos is like Parasite Eve and Final Fantasy VIII. So I just assume you love those for the same reasons I do.
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the normies just were not online. It was only people like us. So I think that the addition to
Ha 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 ha. You're so special.
to the cool kids has really made the internet a much worse place to be. It used to just be, sexism, and now it's terrorist apology. So that's not good.
Well,
There was, I know there were definitely some real sexists back in the day, but there was also a lot of joking around too.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was hard to tell the difference between the two. But yeah, things have gotten worse for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess on that note, right? Like,
Did you also notice they haven't said what they really want to discuss? Maybe they're changed. Niceness is telling everyone that talk about a different topic and not actually discussing anything except how great they are. All are true. They're discussing how great they are because they are old. I wish I had this energy. The oldness makes me sublime.
of back
Because I'm old enough to remember all the imagined better times somehow.
in the day. I guess I'll just ask this to you first, Brianna, and I'm curious what Dev would have to say. I'm again, as I alluded to before, there were a lot of we've had a lot an online presence for a long time. How do you feel you've grown since then, and in what ways? Right?
Oh boy, that's a long question.
Well, we got a long time. I've set aside 2 hours for y'all. We got to talk about something, right?
Well, I think one of the things is the older you get.
Oh no, are we gonna get some variation of the bullshit that's time passing just makes a person automatically wiser, smarter, and just overall better? That's not how that works. People can be idiots at the age of 50, 60, 40, 30, and people can be very smart at the age of 15, 20, 22. It's You do not get passive experience for just getting older. That's not how that works, even remotely.
I think that if you do it correctly, you're
What the
constantly.
fuck does that mean if you do it correctly? What? If you do it correctly, how do you get older incorrectly? Already I'm just baffled. If you do it correctly, I'm gonna listen to this again. Maybe I'm just being uncharitable. Maybe I'm just getting her out of context or something.
Changing.
I'm taking her out of context. Let's listen again.
I think that if you do it correctly, is the older you get. Well, I think one of the things is the older you get. I think that if you do it correctly, you're constantly changing and growing, and you take in new information.
If you're getting older correctly, whatever that means. There you go. That's your advice for today. Get older correctly.
I think that's true for everyone. I think that some people get really static the older that they get. But for me, I think you keep adding new information and hopefully like ending up at better answers. I think for me personally, one way I've grown is just
answers for all of our children in whom light grows abundant. Answers. Get it? Any Final Fantasy fan will get it immediately.
Getting more and more over the trauma of my childhood, which makes me less reactive. Though I can certainly be reactive, but not being in that fight or flight mode all the time is certainly helpful. I think that one of the really big changes in me personally today versus the Gamergate era is...
Can we put Gamergate behind us? Finally? Or is that impossible? Or is that just not in the cards? Is that not gonna happen? Justice. Walk free. Walk free. Walk free.
I've seen, like, Jezebel just closed yesterday, who was a huge force in the Gamergate years. I love Jezebel.
Oh my god. Enough about Gamergate.
The writers at Jezebel.
It's over. It's been over for a long time. Let's move on.
I think like the financial collapse of that particular business model, part of it is due to mismanagement by the private equity firm that bought them out. But I also think part of it is we have the tactics of feminism that we've employed for the last 10, 15 years.
What are the tactics of feminism that we have employed in the last 10, 15 years? Enlighten me.
Clearly not resulting in a vibrant movement. It's not resulting in more real world rights. It's not resulting in a conversation about what women are facing. And I think for me personally, the biggest lesson I've taken is that internet screaming does not really equate to real world policies, if that makes sense.
Oh, God. Says the real serious actress of this space.
Oh, that makes sense to me. Right? Like, we have to ask ourselves, like, is what we're doing moving us towards what we want? Or is it moving us away? Or is it just making us tread water?
Such wise words
I've seen a lot of posts.
Such wise words that I have absolutely never heard before.
And this is kind of not a non sequitur, but a little bit of an aside of people who are swearing they're never going to vote for Joe Biden, right? They're like, oh, I will never vote for Genocide Joe. Is that what the term they use for it? Like, and then the question you ask is like, well, considering that you want policies that Genocide Joe will support and the other options will not, what do you think you're accomplishing here? Is this moving you closer to your political objectives, or is it moving you further away? And I think we all kind of have to ask that. But I want to...
Well, hold on, because this will piggyback into Dev.
Hold on.
I mean, Dev, one of the reasons I enjoy your videos is I think...
Oh, God, you enjoy it... For real? Why would you say that out loud, that you enjoy ShortFatOtaku's video?
And before people online scream at me, I do think you come up with a lot of things that structurally are wrong with the directions that progressives are going. That's not to say I agree with the conclusion she reached, but I think you've really put your finger on some of the things that are wrong.
Is that so?
with our movement today. And one of those are the purity spiral that you have an excellent video about, and the utopianism that we kind of fall into. So I would love to hear, like, from your point of view, how you feel about that.
If this is gonna be boring, I'm just gonna turn it off. Just
Well, I mean, I'm not a progressive, right? I don't view
Right.
myself as a progressive, so
You're not.
no.
obviously not.
No.
Like
Well, glad we
I
got that settled. I was
yeah,
curious, right?
I view myself as like an Adam and Sitch style enlightened centrist.
So an idiot, in other words. Let's translate that.
You know, I definitely do not like the right wing. There are some
Adam and
serious problems
Sitch.
on the right. I grew up
Total empty creators.
with the right wing trying to censor video games and wanting to repress gay people, and I didn't like any of that when I was younger. And I think because the right wing was so ascendant in the 90s, at least culturally, it was easy to be a leftist. It was easy to be like like maybe not like a communist or anything, but it was easy to be like, you know, why shouldn't we have healthcare? I mean, we have healthcare in Canada, but why shouldn't America have healthcare, right? Why shouldn't we have gay marriage? These were kind of easy. They're like slam dunks for people who are left leaning, right?
Mhm.
But the slam dunks are kind of drying up. And
Are
now you
they?
have tougher questions on the left, and
Are they though?
the answers to those questions aren't exclusively leftist. Because now you're getting into like more esoteric things, like, you know, should trans women compete in women's sports? That's not a slam dunk. It's a complicated question. There's a lot in there, you know.
Sure. If you don't know what you're talking about, then sure. It becomes a super esoteric question with a lot in there.
So I think the reason that there has been a slow shift away from broader leftism is because it accomplished a lot, and it accomplished a lot of good.
What is. Oh, God. Really easy now? So we have single payer healthcare in the US? Oh, wait, we don't.
But we're kind of running out of the
Wah,
good. We
wah,
haven't completely run out
wah.
of it, but it's definitely starting to run out of good stuff.
Out of on that
No.
note, like, what would you say currently in 2023
Another
today?
person living in the La La Land. Oh, yes. The only trans issue discussed in the US is definitely only if trans women should be in women's sports. That's 100% the only topic discussed and nothing else ever.
Is the what should progressives, in your opinion, be
Nothing else.
putting out there? What do you think is their strongest argument that they have today? Right? What should they
Right
be
now?
focusing on right now? Yes.
Healthcare.
Yeah.
America needs healthcare.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That is the big one. Oh, and you talked about utopianism and purity spiraling, Brianna. I'll give you a concrete example. Okay, so you see a lot of rhetoric on the left. Let's say the very far left is, you know, healthcare is a human right. Everything should be free. Everything should be available to everyone.
Okay.
Otherwise, you are oppressing people and you're letting people die. You're killing people, in fact. In practical terms, what we've discovered, looking at like the UK's healthcare system and France's and Canada's healthcare system, what we've discovered is that if you make everything free, you have a shit ton of waste. And you only have so much resources to go around. There's only so many doctors, only so much
Waste?
time. So if you make everything free, you end up bankrupting your system. You can't it's fucked. However, if you add like a $20 copay to go to the doctors, you cut out like 90% of the waste. Because most people who are just showing up to like get a day off work and get a doctor's note, they're not going to do that because it's not free anymore, right? So these numbers.
If healthcare would be free, it would bankrupt the system because of all of those people that would go to the doctor to get a day off, and that would bankrupt the system. Serious actors in this space.
Numbers are. I got them from Econoboy like a year ago. I can't pull them up right away, but I do remember them as being mostly accurate. Is that basically if you add a $20 copay, you cut out 90% of your healthcare waste. In terms of like people actually like healthcare waste from patients. So
I see.
that's not ideologically pure if you're talking about healthcare as a human right. Like if that's your value, well, now it's not a human right. Now it costs $20, which means that if somebody doesn't have $20, if they're too poor and no one can lend them $20 and they can't get a job, well, that person is fucked. They're not going to get healthcare. But it also means that you get to have a healthcare service for everyone else, right? So there's certain instances
This
where
is nothing. This person is not saying anything. He's a bunch of empty drivel with a bunch of assumptions that I can also make in any direction I want. I could speak confidently about healthcare and say in a confident tone any other scenario.
if you're ideologically pure, you actually end up with worse results than if you compromise. And I think healthcare is one of those.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think that there's that trend across the board, right? Like
But
we're seeing
I hate it when people operate on slogans. If you're if you're ideologically pure, that's not good. But if you compromise, that's good. Okay, that's that doesn't mean anything.
seeing it right now. I think really hyperbolically with the Israel-Hamas war and the rhetoric around that. You know, if you
That does not mean anything. What he just said.
have a stance that is, yeah, I did a 2-hour WIC panel the other night, and I said multiple times, like, I stand with the people of Palestine, the human rights abuses towards civilians
An awful panel, no doubt.
is unconscionable. I don't
As all of
support
them
it.
are.
Our top like foreign policy in this region should be to, stop the violence. But if you don't leap to the most extreme conclusion there, like a one-state solution,
What an amazing policy idea. Let's stop the violence. I've I have not heard a more serious policy proposal in a long while. Why didn't anyone think of that? Let's implement the policy of stop violence.
and like implementing a democratic
Amazing.
utopia there and taking away the borders, you are just you don't have a voice in the conversation. So I agree with you on that. Deb, I do want to say, in like tonight, I hope we can just have a respectful back and forth about some of your content. I was studying a lot of your videos, which again,
Studying your videos. Oh boy, I studied your videos. You magnificent bastard. I read your book.
largely I enjoy. They're well produced, they're well thought out. I think that this is stuff the left needs an answer for. I've noticed though that there's a really big
I'm
difference.
starting to feel more like a cat today than a duck for some reason. I just get this, you know?
In
It's just
how you define progressives and is I define progressives depending what the argument is you're trying to make. There was one I was watching, and yeah, you define progressives in this nice people that want health care, but as
boy.
like Antifa, and self ID like trans people, they're non-binary and just want to make it up on the fly, right? So
non-binary people is when you just want to make stuff up on the fly. You've heard it. They are the Antifa of trans people. What?
I think trans people as like Antifa, and self ID like
Antifa
but
and self ID. Like, come on. Come on. Antifa and self ID. This cannot be serious. Trans rights are human rights. If we let one go, they will all fall. True. Just like, I think what she says is correct, but not insightful. There is a false sense of novelty in these people that is aggravating to me. The same as with the insecure at all. Of course, pivoting to transmit nonsense. What can you expect? I don't know.
but as like Antifa, and self ID like trans people, they're non-binary and just want to make it up on the fly, right? So I think like one of the things that I find sometimes difficult about your content is it sometimes feels like you have a conclusion that you want to reach, that both sides are equally bad, and you kind of reach for facts that fit that, and I don't always think it's an accurate way to view a situation.
Well, how do you define progressives then? What's your view of it?
I have a much more charitable point of view on this, right? Which is, I think at the highest
Which is, if you get a medical doctor's paper, you're okay.
level, progressivism is about wanting.
I'm so happy that I'm accepted by Briana Wu as a trans person because I have an official diagnosis. Oh, I'm one of the few good ones.
Structural change for solutions. Like healthcare is a really good example. You know, I grew up in Mississippi, so when I think about structural racism in the United States, I realize there's no policy around the edges that's gonna, you know, make that society heal from the wounds still open
Subchat.
today from the Civil
Hello, the problem, even though I do not believe you're the problem.
War. So I think at the highest levels, like progressivism is about thinking about big structural policy changes. What you and I think agree on is that there's a real tendency, especially online, to reformat to mean this extremely online kind of argument that tends towards a purity spiral, which is not helpful.
That's true, but it is it's not just online, but I think it comes out online because it's so easy, right? I think Twitter is no longer 240 characters or whatever it was, but it was for a very long time, and I think that promoted a certain type of very short thinking, where you have to fit it into a very small box, and people did that for a decade, and now we have a bunch of short thinkers, if that makes sense. Especially if you're like a Twitter addict or you're a journalist or something. I think Twitter ruined a lot of people's brains, and I think that's part of it.
It's so easy to say that some external thing has ruined their brain, isn't it? So, just Twitter. This external thing has ruined everybody. I'm not sure I like this line of reasoning. Why are they so obsessed with other people's personal lives? Because, I don't know, because they have no lives of their own, so they have to live through other people's lives or something. I don't know. I don't know. Does she know not everyone can afford a doctor, especially in the US, from what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
But the bigger problem, I think, I'm gonna have to do a bit of philosophizing, unfortunately, Wick.
Go ahead.
Philosophizing from ShortFatOtaku. Oh joy. Oh boy. How quaint.
Which I did.
Do your philosophy. Do your best. ShortFatOtaku, the famous brain scientist. True.
I did with the Karl Marx debate as well, just to explain a few things. So there's a leftist philosopher
Brace yourselves.
named Herbert Marcuse, and he came up with this idea, and it's not called the March of Progress, but we'll just use March of Progress as a shorthand.
Oh.
And the idea basically is that if you have, and he thought this was a good thing. He was promoting this. I don't think it's a good thing. If you have,
Of course, you don't think progress is a good thing, because you're not a progressive.
That is based on change, and then you kind of universalize that movement, so that it simply pursues change, it inevitably radicalizes and drives off a cliff. It has to, because it's not aiming at a goal. It's aiming at change itself. So
no. What? Citation, please. What? What does that mean? That's stupid. I don't believe you. I just don't believe you.
like, if you say I want to change to do XYZ, that's one thing. But if you're saying I want to change for change's sake, then that's where the utopianism comes from and the purity spiraling. And he outlined this all in a book called Repressive Tolerance, where the idea is that tolerance, in his view, had to repress people who weren't tolerant.
Right. Well,
I mean, I guess ShortFatOtaku would think that intolerant people should just be able to do whatever, of course.
This is where I think I would like one of the reasons the way like
Philosopher.
my views on what women are facing in America have not changed since Gamergate. What has changed radically is the way I go about trying to like affect that change, right? Because I agree with you. Like at some point, we turned a corner in how we are talking about what women face in American society. And we stopped talking about policies and we started talking more about an aesthetic where if you had the right like points of view and you expanded feminism to mean body shaming and this very wide gamut of related struggles where you had to kind of identify with all of these values and then eventually hopefully you could talk about the policy. I think this is where feminism really fucked up, frankly, in the Gamergate era. If I could do anything and go relive those years over again, I would have gotten off of Twitter and I would have used the political capital I had in that moment to push Microsoft, push Activision to like change their internal hiring processes.
Well, Marcus never said that he had specific goals. Then we went with achieve perfection, my guy, and no longer need change. True.
Right. And I think that we've really gotten to a point where feminism as a force is not going.
Feminism again. This is gonna be so awful. Feminism bad. Change bad. Change for change's sake. Oh, Jesus, just every talk I've seen win has been worse than the last. Welcome to hell.
Going to be effective until we
Welcome
take
to
a step
hell.
back and go, hold on. What are the issues we need to be thinking about? Childcare is completely unaffordable. Women have been run out of the workforce post-COVID. We're not really seeing an investment in that. Until we look at these kind of bigger structural issues, I don't see us like becoming a relevant force in
This
politics.
is such an empty slogan. We need bigger structural policy. I'm starting to see why it's important to read theory. Yes. Press yes if you want me to do theory reading on stream. I can. We can do this together as a family. What does that even look like? It looks like honey.
Politics again.
One thing that I noticed in your answers here from both of you, right?
I don't mind doing reading of theory on stream. I don't mind. President Sunday seems to be seeing some success with it. This is basically a hyper form of whataboutism. It's really off-putting. We could do some reading. That could be fun. Look at the theory. I mean, we could do history reading. We could do. I wanted to read to you the book Becoming Jewish. That's theory, but that's theory of Jewishness. We could do some philosophy together, or politic theory. The sky's the limit. There is no limit of what we can do here on the Lucy Haza experience. I say as I unpause.
When Dev asked you, what is progressivism? Who is progressive, etc. And then also from Dev's philosophizing there, I think I've kind of had a bit of it.
If that was philosophizing, that I just don't know what to say. I don't know. I just don't know anymore.
The eureka moment, and bear with me, right?
Please.
In my mind, Wu, right? Progressivism, from your definition, what you gave to me, is
No, I meant with structural change.
progress towards a goal, right? But
It should be. It
yes,
is not.
but
Yes.
Isn't it? Is it really not?
A lot of progressives, and what I've seen this argument online before,
Really?
right, is that we are going to progress for progress's sake. Like we are going
Who
to.
says that? Who says we're gonna progress for progress's sake? The word progress in itself doesn't mean anything. Like, for some people, regress is progress. Like, those are relative terms. There needs to be some substance behind them. Nobody says we need to progress for progress's sake, because you need to define what progress even means.
Move forward, right? Regardless of where that is.
What does that mean? Progress for progress' sake. Who says that? Point me to those people.
We are going to move forward. We have to move past capitalism. We have to move past these things. We have to move forward, right? And I think that sometimes
moving past capitalism is not progress for progress's sake. That's stupid. What? Progress for progress's sake is when you want to move past capitalism? Is this for real?
At least in the SFO videos I've seen, that is the
what? The only ones that do are people like Wu, who are totally non-specific and only talk about progress in the abstract to bind an audience. Yes, we need policy.
what progressives are painted as, and I don't think that's a fair characterization, Dev. Right? I think that, like, yes, there's some of that, and I think that's mostly online stuff. But I do think that plenty of progressives, plenty of people who do identify as progressives, are towards specific goals. Does that make sense? Am I off my rocker here?
That does make sense, but I'm not sure it's entirely accurate. I mean, there's some accuracy there, I think. But considering how much blowback you've been receiving recently, Briana, you have to know that there's definitely not just a small radical online fringe, but a significant number of people who now believe this way.
Yeah.
What way? Can we get any level of specificity here? A huge amount of that thing. What way? That progress must happen for progress's sake?
I completely agree.
With what? What are you agreeing with?
We've talked about this privately in DMs. I don't mind sharing it here, but
Oh, lovely.
I personally believe that the left is just 10 years behind the right as far as being radicalized on the internet, right? I think a lot of the same tendencies we see.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Oh my god. I just have no clue what that means. Are they even saying anything?
And the Tea Party have now come to our own doorstep. I think this version of the Democratic Party, unfortunately, would be very susceptible to, a left-wing Donald Trump if a figure like that came along. So,
huh? A left-wing Donald Trump.
I agree with you. I think there's time to stop it. And
why would you want a left-wing? This is so. As if Donald Trump is like just the best that a politician has to offer. But if only there was a left-leaning one. Because Trump is obviously the best of the best that politics has to have to offer.
Yeah, Wick, one of the reasons I consider you a good friend at this point is I think
Oh,
I have a
mm,
different. I think the degree to which I think women are not getting a fair shake in society is a little different than yours. I think we have a different appraisal there, but directionally, I think we both see this torrent of crazy on both sides. And we're taking a step and saying this needs to be about policy. We've got to calm this down and we've got to learn to talk to each other so we can have a functioning.
we need policy. This is not vague and useless at all. We just need policy. Why, oh why, oh why?
Democracy.
I really love like this person that just parrots the vague. We need policy. We need policy. We need policy. Oh, what policy are you thinking of? Uh, we need policy.
Yeah, I very much agree with you about that. So, does that make sense to you, Dev?
No,
I think so.
it's
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
To go back to what you were saying earlier, you mentioned that basically progressives have been making less progress as the radicalizations happened, right?
Yeah.
You probably don't agree with my characterization of this, but I'm going to give it anyway.
Please.
I think that there was a lot of things that need.
Interestingly, she is demonstrating the most progressive in the abstract position here. Like Trump has a new strategy and it works, so it must be good. Is the cheapest form of pseudo progressive.
Need to be fixed. And the feminists fixed a lot of them. Not all of them, but they fixed a lot of them over, let's say, the past 100 years or so. There's been a lot of improvement. And then as the number of things to fix began to dry up, you started to see.
Yes. Women's rights issues are such a dried up well. For sure. There's basically nothing to advocate or fight for anymore. That's true. That's so true, short fat otaku.
See them focus on small things, right? Microaggressions, body shaming, like you mentioned.
Abortion.
You know, things that weren't nearly as important as should women be allowed to hold jobs and vote. You know, much smaller things. And then as they focused on the smaller things, they radicalized. They became a lot more crazy looking to the normies. And then while they were in that echo chamber, they started taking big L's, like with Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And like the rollback of LGBT acceptance. So I think there's been this ebb and flow where as the left, the broader left, has been accomplishing goals, they've run out of goals to accomplish, and which has radicalized them. And then they became crazy. Then they started rolling back. They started losing.
The left has accomplished everything, and therefore they became crazy. This is so This is. What an amazing thinker. What a brain on this one.
All those goals they had accomplished.
So I understand that these things happen at the same time, Deb. But my question
What
to
a
you would
brain.
be like, and I want you to be clear here. Are you blaming that that
So
niche
smart.
kind of focus that the left has had on the microaggressions and the small things as to why?
I need someone to push her own policies because it's extremely telling that for someone running a pack, she has no policy, ideas, stance, whatever at all.
They lost Roe v. Wade, and as to why they've taken big L's when it comes to LGBTQ processes, protections and stuff. Is that are you?
Why would you have any policies? Wait, I have to take my HRT. Why would you have policies if you can vibe? It's so late and I have not taken HRT yet. Uh-oh. Wait, hold on. Empty. Empty. Hold on, where's my Androcol? Hold on. I need some. Oh, today I'm taking a special extra pill. Today I'm taking two pills and 1/2 of a pill. I'm gonna prepare it for your pleasure, for your viewing pleasure. I'm going to prepare to take hormone replacement therapy. So, for your pleasure, we're gonna be taking this. So first, estrofem here, looks like this. We're taking it. So, Androcur, Estrofam, and finally Dostinex. 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 I take all three. I can't answer about my specific policy until the proper structure has been put in place. You would know that, if like myself, you are a professional in the space. That's true. I'm a professional HRT taker. But it's okay. Briana Wu thinks at least that I'm a real trans person because I have a diagnosis. Which, by the way, I probably went through more hoops than her to get. Because it's Poland. And the US is just better on trans rights than Poland.
Implying that there is a causation factor there?
I think there partially is, yes. I mean, obviously, another part of it is that they have political opponents who want to roll those things back, and they took that opportunity, right? But they made themselves weak. They gave them the opening, you know?
Ah, yes, they made themselves weak.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not going to.
I hear what you're saying, and it's all very, very stupid, is what she should have said in an ideal world. Seriously, come on.
I'm going to deny there's a lot of that that's going on. I definitely think so. I think, and you talked about this in your video about the purity spiral, right? Which is excellent. I hope we can leave that.
No, it's not. This is such an empty discussion. How much more of this can I take? Wix audience.
In the show notes, and people will check it out. I think if you're on the left,
Thanks very much.
Dev has a very good analysis of a real problem that we have. But even in your own video, you talk about how this is advantageous.
Oh my god.
For us to build a coalition, but in the end, is kind of a cancer that eats us apart, right? So I think that's exactly what
eats us apart, whatever that means. How can he eat something up? Never mind. Eats us apart.
happened, right? This started with us kind of all getting together and going,
Is that
"Hey,
even a thing? Is that even a saying, to eat something apart?
you know, we've all noticed that our sexual assault claims are being kind of systematically not being taken seriously. I think women across a wide variety of fields look around at the workplace and go, you know what? I have a lot of trouble being taken seriously and being heard on my own teams, right? Or as soon as I have a child, I've noticed that my job is very eager to show me a door, right? This is a set of problems.
But I thought feminism has already fixed everything, and that the henceforth feminism made itself look weak. So which is it? Are there problems or are there not problems?
That we've certainly not solved and we're nowhere near solving.
Oh.
What I think has
So there are problems. Oh wow. I thought they were all solved. Well, so which is it? At the end of the day, solved or not solved, it cannot be both.
happened is I think online is a trap, particularly for people. And I want to be really clear. I fell into this trap.
You are online. You are online here. This is so stupid.
I look back at my own congressional run, and I think if I understood the things I do today, I think I would
You
have
don't understand anything.
a much better shot of winning. Because
Would you
what
now?
I can look back and see really clearly was online was pushing me to take this this leftmost view on literally everything.
Oh, so the only reason why you didn't win is of the online lefties that pushed you to the most extreme view on everything. Okay, sure. The online lefties made you lose. It's not your fault at all. Sure, of course. Why am I not even remotely surprised? It's all because of those online lefties, isn't it? Those meddling kids and their dog.
Sex work, not accepting, money from XYZ, and really focusing on the superficial when what I needed to be doing was spending a lot more time in my district and talking about the policies like directly affecting their lives. And that's something I would do very differently today. Online, I think, is a trap because I think it gives people this feeling that they're making a change, and I think it's with the best of intention. I'm not like a
This is so empty. This is so devoid of content. What she is saying. So like, I feel like the online left has pushed me to not do anything when when what I should have done is I should have done something, and it is a great lesson that I have learned in my years of growing, that actually rather than nothing I should be doing something. Great, amazing analysis. Amazing analysis.
that
I
person,
know.
but I can really imagine that, like, feeling degraded all the time or feeling the ways that like society doesn't respect you. I would imagine there's some anger and some trauma there. And I think it probably feels good to talk about that online. The problem is somewhere along the line, like, the problem is with online culture, there's no point where we pause and say, okay, we need to make it so people that are larger can access
She
training.
can't even give a example of any proposed policy. She just says policy, like it's a magic spell.
And planes with a little bit more dignity, right? There's not a public policy component that we're pushing for. As
I swear to God.
much as the fringe left loves to shit on liberals, I do think this is something structurally liberals are better at than progressives, kind of forming coalitions and trying to get specific policies passed.
Like examples? Come on, lady, please.
Well, insofar as the fat thing is concerned, as a fat guy, like, I'm quite
How
fat.
dare you speak over one of the oppressed classes, Brianna? We have a fat man
I
with us
apologize.
today. Okay.
I will say that, like, being fat's
So
just
funny.
unhealthy, and
Sure.
I think rather than, like, it is better to promote public health than it is to promote, accommodating people being fat. I think we want people to lose weight, not feel comfortable being fat. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also
You can do both. You can do both. I know that for those people, walking and chewing a bubble gum is like a struggle, but you can, on the one hand, promote a healthy lifestyle, and on the other hand, you can tell people that they don't have to feel like trash for being overweight. Those are not mutually exclusive positions. You can hold both of these ideas in your head at the same time. Thank you.
Yeah, this is something I saw like when I was running for office. I do think that there are situations where I don't think it would
Incredible.
kill airlines to have a few larger seats that are given for priority for people that physically can't fit in those seats. That doesn't seem crazy to me, right?
Yeah,
maybe
makes sense.
maybe the fat thing is a bad example. There are any number of like reasonable public policy things we could be focused on, and we just don't because
Examples. I guess the seat in the plane was an example of something. Even though, as far as I know, planes are sort of, I don't know. It's just, I guess technically speaking, there could be a quote unquote public policy which would demand that companies create those bigger seats. So I guess, okay, that's one example of a policy that we have heard today.
Because the conversation
One
is so
example.
much about like online purity. Here's a really good example: the trans debate.
Okay, give me an. You're gonna talk to me about trans purity when you're the biggest trans puritan at all. When you say who is and who isn't real with your trans medicalism, you're gonna talk. You're gonna criticize purity. Are you serious now?
Yeah, if you put me in charge tomorrow of like talking at the trans public policy issue, I would try to find something very similar to gay marriage where like you're focused on a single public policy position with
Okay, give us an example. Example, please. If you put me in charge today, I will definitely find. No, don't say something. Give us the something.
broad possible range of support. And I would make that like the rights of trans children to attend public school.
Wait, what? Are trans children banned from attending public school? Hold on, maybe I'm out of the loop on US everything. Are trans children banned from attending public school? I'm gonna need Lucy has a US viewers to chime in on this. Please answer me this question. Huh?
But instead, it gets into like
What?
this more esoteric thing and this more esoteric thing, which often I agree with.
Wait, what?
But I also understand how it's not ever going to be a popular public policy position. And I think all of
What are you talking? You say you're saying nothing. What is the esoteric position? This is so ridiculous. This is just, I don't believe this.
This is a trap. I think if we're serious about things like healthcare and trans dignity and women's rights, we've got to come up with a new strategy, because any honest look at where the progressive movement is today, you have to admit we have less cultural power today than we did a decade ago.
To you, Briana, right?
Yeah.
You say this, but the implications are weird of that. If the online is a trap, does that not at least imply or infer that we should simply cede the field, leave online to do online things, right? And just leave it alone. I think you and I could both agree, and I think SFO might back us up, that the online and how that plays out does have real world implications. It does impact not only policy, right, but people's individuals' lives as well. Like there are countless examples that we can point to of people being harassed, stalked, etc., and also of policies that have been either implemented because of discourse that has started online, or prevented from going through, and or swift voted because of that's an old term, because of online discourse, right? And so yeah, like if online's a trap, it's not a trap we can avoid, is it?
I've talked so much, Dev, go ahead.
Too much. If I'd be in charge, I would do something that would be written on paper, but I have no clue, so I won't say anything, is what it seems to mean. True.
I don't know how to answer that actually, because I had a brainwave about a previous thing you were saying, Brianna, and
What
that
a
was
shocker.
occupying my head. I'm sorry, Wick.
No, it's okay. Do your brainwave thing. We can
I'll
ignore
answer
Wick.
it.
Wick can just play his video games and make money off of
No,
you. That's
no,
okay.
no. I will say, Wick. I will say that um, I don't think you can ignore the online space
Hmm.
because you have people who are more left leaning complaining about harassment all the time, and there's some fake harassment, but there's a lot of real harassment. But then you also have people on the right who complain about getting canceled. And that definitely happens too. People have lost their jobs, they've been debanked, they've had
Oh,
their social media shut
I'm
down,
gonna make a
their YouTube
prediction
channels.
for you.
Debunked.
There's going to be a left-wing resurgence in believing in cancel culture after a month or two, right?
Oh,
Like I think in
God.
the next
After
couple
all
months
these,
we're
I'm
gonna hear
there.
a hue and
I'm there.
cry of people decrying people losing their jobs for their political opinions. I am
Yeah.
guaranteeing that. But go ahead.
yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Captain. Ah, boy.
I know, for example, Kraut, if you know Kraut and T, he recently said that in Germany, a whole bunch of migrants who had showed up from the Middle East and now they're saying stuff about Israel, they're getting deported because Germany is very strict with its Jewish laws for obvious reasons, right? So there's a whole bunch of people who are just getting kicked out of Germany now. And so I do think there's going to be some sort of a backlash with people who are going very mask off on the Israel Palestine situation and losing their jobs. And suddenly it'll be like, you can't cancel people over your political beliefs. And it's like, well, listen, that's been happening for years now to people who are right leaning. So
Oh boy, what an argument.
I don't want anyone canceled either side, right?
Getting fired is not getting cancelled. Just
But if these are the rules of the game, this is how it has to be, you know?
this is
I mean,
so brain dead.
I don't have an issue with someone losing. I don't think I have the same position over what y'all do. I mean, Dev, you have a video where you talk about the woman with the wig pulling, right? And
Yeah.
how you didn't support. I think the name of the video is what is it? Cancel culture is totalitarian or something like that. And you're talking about this woman that basically this drunk white guy sees her on the street, tries to pull her wig off in a really violent way, clearly hurts her, and she happens to film it, and the guy ends up fired. You're talking how you don't support that. I actually don't really have a problem with that necessarily. What I do have a problem with is
I have a problem with people that say a lot without saying anything. I have a big problem with that. It's a pet peeve of mine, I guess you could call it. It's a doozy. Let me see. Oh.
and this is where I expect I'm going to get yelled at after this show, is I have been against a certain set of tactics from the Gamergate era, right? I think it is wrong to dox people. I think it's wrong to go through everything they've ever said publicly or privately and then try to use that to destroy their reputation. I think death threats, rape threats, all that stuff should just be off the table, right? And I want to be really honest and say that a decade ago, I think Gamergate was doing that, and I would imagine all three of us.
Enough about Gamergate. The world does not revolve around Gamergate. Nobody cares about Gamergate. Only you do, Briana Wu. Only you.
Probably agree today. The people I personally see doing this the most are my own side.
I don't care about Gamergate, and neither should you.
And it just seems so crazy hypocritical of me that we decried all these tactics.
Like, she only has two lines. One is we need policy, and the other is during Gamergate, insert whatever.
And now we've just embraced them as our core strategy. Does that kind of make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Yep. That's fuck, what was his name? Was it Saul Alinsky? I don't know. The guy who wrote Rules for Radicals. he wrote this book basically outlining what radical movements should do to take power. And one of the rules is just be as hypocritical as possible.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
do the underhanded stuff and also accuse your opponents of doing it.
Right.
So this is kind of how radical movements go as
Mhm.
they radicalize.
of course.
But I mean, you can't. This is where I'm really torn a lot of the time, because I do agree with the stated political goals of the progressive movement, right? I do want more acceptance for trans people. I do want things to be better for women.
I mean, for you, it depends on which trans people, doesn't it? I want acceptance for trans people. It's just that I don't see all trans people as trans people, but that's neither here nor there, isn't it?
I do, I've been on a WIC panel before talking about my belief in like structural reparations for, Black people. I think it's the only way we can move forward from the pain of the Civil War. So when it comes to a lot of these policies, I'm right there on board. Where I'm feeling increasingly homeless is there is a standard I try to hold myself
Oh my god, politically homeless again. I am feeling homeless.
to
Oh
professionally
no,
in how I behave. And I just see a lot of my own side
I just feel so
engaged in
homeless.
tactics that just, I don't know how to say it other than they feel evil to me.
To both of you, and this is a very
Evil,
good question because
evil
I think we've
tactics.
both acknowledged, or all of us have acknowledged, that it's worse now, right, than it was
Yeah.
10 years ago. It's worse now than it was 10, 15 years
Hello,
ago.
Arkael.
Again, I'm a little older myself, right?
Yeah, you're old, Wick. You're basically on the way out of this world. You just should retire as fast as possible.
And I was
Oh boy.
active online in the early 2000s and things like that.
Yeah.
Very different environment, for better or worse, right? There's some things I don't want back from those days. However,
You don't want the Xbox Live chats back?
look, we had some fun times, but those times are behind us.
Yeah.
We have grown up and grown out of those things. But I
Have
will
we?
ask,
Halfway?
well, should we, and how do we do so? And that's my question. Is because it's very easy to get black pilled on this, like these doxing tactics, these just doubling down tactics, this constant harassment.
Taxes.
It's been shown to work, right? It's been shown to be effective in getting the people you don't want to be around not be around anymore. It hasn't worked when it comes to combating ideas, getting policies passed, any of that, but it's worked for what I think people really like, and that's hurting others. So how do we get passes? Can we get passes? Is there a way to stop this spiral, as I guess you'd call it, or this constant wave of tit for tat, of reciprocal radicalization, of if you use those tactics, we're going to use those tactics 10 times as hard, et cetera, et cetera. What do we think? I want Dev to go first on this one, and then I'll let you go.
Oh man, how do you fix the problem? That's a very
If we're going to talk
big
about the
load
problem,
you've
we
heaped
got
on
to
my
talk about how to
shoulders.
fix it, right?
boy.
Yeah. You have to. It's a tall order. Not everyone's gonna be able to do it. You have to be able to understand
This is so boring. They're not saying anything.
your opponent's arguments. All right. You have to understand that, like, when a conservative, expresses some sort of anti-trans opinion, he doesn't actually want to kill all trans people and have the streets run red.
No way. Not every single transphobe wants all of the trans people dead. No way.
With the blood of trans people and outlaw. No, he's generally scared for his kids, right? And now you can think that it's wrong for him to be scared for his kids in that way, and there's some good evidence that he probably is wrong.
This line of argumentation is also stupid, by the way.
But it's not coming from a place of evil, right? And there's also there's obviously inverted situations.
Hot take. I don't care where it comes from. It's really stupid to analyze from what place does a bad policy come from. That is a waste of time. You combat the policy, regardless of if it comes from a good place or a bad place. A bad policy is a bad policy, and you combat it. This is so asinine. Oh, this might be a horrible policy, but the person pushing it is probably coming from an amazing place. So
well, where like right wingers do not understand leftist point of views, leftists don't understand right wing point of views. Um, Basically, if you can't steel man your opponent's arguments, you're not going to be able to sympathize with them when they have an emotional reaction to something that
steel man your opponent's arguments is not the same. It's
they think is bad.
okay.
So being able to steel man or wanting to steal, but the problem
Yeah.
is, Dev,
You
no one
have
wants
to,
to do that.
I can't make them. I mean, so there's this idea, like pre-internet, you watch what was on TV. Maybe you could rent a movie, but like you watch what was on TV. I would have never grown to love martial arts films if I didn't watch them at 3 a.m. by like sneaking downstairs as a kid. Right? It
Okay.
was the only thing on. And I had I think from 16 to 18 I had insomnia, so I couldn't sleep, and I was just staying up all night watching these martial arts films
Okay.
because that's all I could do. Right?
Okay.
It's one of those things where as technological advancement has increased and we have more access to Netflix, for example, we never have to be exposed to anything we don't like ever again, which is nice because we don't want to interact with things that we hate. But also, it means that we never actually discover anything new. So if you take that principle,
I mean, I guess that's how you operate. That's that's an interesting insight into your mind. I will just say that. When I was a kid, I only had this one thing that I was forced to watch. But now that I have a lot of choice, it means that I never find anything new. Okay.
you apply it to political echo chambers. People don't watch videos or read books or entertain ideas from other political camps because they don't have to anymore. If you're a leftist, you can go on YouTube and watch an infinite amount
yes, because pre-internet people totally were forced to engage with books by all sorts of different political camps. That is totally what was happening all the time, nonstop.
leftist content and never be exposed to a right-wing idea.
That is totally and definitely an internet only thing. Only reading books in your quote unquote camp. Definitely.
And same the other way around, right? It sounds very strange, but there's too much access, and
It doesn't sound strange. What you're saying sounds stupid.
the the um the white pillar in me wants to say that, well, no, people can be trusted to diversify their media intake and understand what other people think, and there are some people who have, for sure, but it seems like most people just aren't doing it.
Yes, because you have such diversified media intake and literature intake as well. I see they're saying that we wouldn't have to listen to Briana Wu, which is true and somewhat optimistic prospect.
It's
I think that's
Oh,
fair.
go on.
I think that's
Go
fair.
ahead, Will.
No. I was just gonna say, like
It's
I
not.
know.
It's not fair. Come on. It's brain dead. It's not fair at all.
I've told you this in DMs. I am better at my job because I watch your videos.
Now that's a take. I am better at my job as a politician, as a political activist, as a policy pusher, as a serious person in this space because I watch short, fat otaku's videos. Let that sink in for a second. This is what makes her better at her job. I think this statement speaks for itself.
And I do think because you have such a salient, brutal, fair critique of the left, I think it makes me stronger to watch that critique.
My God. That's a headline right there. True.
And figure out what the answer is, right? So I agree with you that this
40 minutes. I will not be watching this whole thing. This just it's impossible. It's impossible for me to watch this whole thing. I physically can't. How long have we been on this? 1 hour 20 minutes. We're gonna just watch some more.
tendency for all of us to never listen to something on the other side, it makes us weak. It makes us unable to function. And one of the reasons I really respect Destiny a lot
Of course. Of course.
is, I think, more than anyone else out there. Yeah, look, let's be clear. He makes a lot of sweaty gamer comments. He can certainly tend towards being hyperbolic.
Why am I not even surprised?
But I also think one of the good things he does is he teaches people how to think. I think when people make
He teaches people how to think. Oh no. If Destiny is the person that teaches people how to think, then we are lost. We are lost in the sauce. If Destiny of all people is teaching people how to think. Oh. Mamma mia.
claims, he really encourages his audience to look through that, to think through it before responding, and to really, really do your research before
Mamma
having really
mia.
strong opinions. I think that's a really good example.
Amazing.
One of the things I think has really, really changed over my lifetime is this democratization of information. I'm just barely old enough to remember when you could get your news and it had to be on either cable or the printed newspaper that came to your house every single day. And that had a lot of downsides. You know, you didn't hear
My
about a
irony
lot of stories
detector
about
just
gay
exploded.
people in that time period. You know, the makeup of the newsrooms had huge implications for how things were covered, which is why I think we can look at public policy and the conversations we were not having about issues like structural racism back in the 90s and see how simple they were compared to today. That is a bad thing. But something was really good about that I think is really, really under acknowledged today is in the newspaper and cable news era of public information, that did go through someone at the top that was mature, that was thoughtful, that generally took some time to make sure the stuff there was mostly accurate.
Maturity had nothing to do with it. Like this is just empty ranting. Mature. The mature person at the top. Destiny really teaches us of geographical knowledge, true, about where Palestine is. Karasu, did you know that during the newspaper era there was this mature person that would say what goes, and that's basically all that journalistic integrity is? That's when you have a mature person at the top. Did we mention any actual point at all? Yes, one. Implementing bigger seats on planes so that people that cannot fit into them now could. That's the only point that she has made throughout this whole thing so far. That there should be a public policy about getting some big seats on planes. Really doing your research before having strong opinions. Can't find Palestine on the map. Checks out. True. You just. Ay, ay, ay.
Accurate and did represent both sides. Today, we have no incentives for any of that. And I think we're much weaker as a society. I think a direct reason we're seeing such a stupid analysis on foreign policy issues today is we have now 2 generations of Americans. They've never heard any position other than America is bad and our foreign policy is always wrong. And the world is a little bit more complicated than that, even though we've made plenty of foreign policy mistakes. So I think that a really important thing is for America to take more of a role in thinking about how this information landscape is influencing us, right? We've got to protect free speech, we've got to protect open expression, but I also think we've lost control of the way people get their information to a mob, and I don't think it's serving our country well.
A mob.
Yeah, so you're getting at like the post-truth era.
Yeah.
If you know, like the
I do.
postmodern post-truth era. Yeah.
I do.
So
I do.
it's like, well,
Well,
can you trust CNN? Well, I mean, maybe. You know, they're a decently big institution. There's a lot of moving parts, lots of people there. But like,
Yeah.
what if they're all compromised, right? Well, can you trust Fox? Well, maybe not. Like, these are big corporations, and if you
they're
don't
all compromised. Are we getting into conspiracy theorizing now? They're all compromised.
trust corporations because they're corporate, you know, maybe you want to go somewhere else. You know, do you trust Tim Pool, or do you trust like some smaller site? Do you trust some really fringe one like Zero Hedge or something? Because there's utility in looking at the small guys too, because they don't have
Yeah.
corporate interests, but now they have like personal interests, and they're
Oh.
probably more radical than the mainstream guys. So like anything can be tainted with some form of bias. You know, any company, any individual, any institution. So who do you trust? And then you get to a point where it's like, well, do you trust anything at all? Like, I've never been to Antarctica, so how do I know that it actually exists?
This is how. Oh. I'm loving those deep intellectual philosophical discussions. Amazing.
Right? Like, it could be an entire, like a huge psyop the entire world's playing on me. You can go down.
Ah, for sure. It's a worldwide psyop. That's the most logical and rational explanation. It's a big psyop.
Rabbit hole
You
of like,
joke about
what do you
this, but there are
trust?
some people, there's this growing, well, it's not growing that fast, but there is a portion of people who do just don't trust anything. Any institution is suspect. Any fact is suspect. Look at the denialism that has come out after October 7th of the things that everyone
Oh, God. This is why I think people like this should just shut up about Israel-Palestine conflict.
saw on video,
Yeah.
and suddenly
Oh, man.
there's people with millions of followers, with hundreds of thousands of likes on their shit, just making shit up and saying it. And
Name names, you coward. Don't just say people with millions of followers. Name names. This is.
it gets more likes than the truth, right? And
Yeah.
how do you fix that? Because Briana Wu, like, respectfully, like, there were a lot of problems back when we had so much gatekeeping, right? Like,
100%.
it held us back so much, and I don't know if we want or can go back to that style of having some kind of person on the top, some elite deciding what we can and can't. Like, what I don't want.
None of them understand how the media cycle works, do they? Some elite at the top of the. Some editor-in-chief elite in a newspaper. Like. Jeez Louise.
That, right?
100, and that's not why I'm advocating.
Okay,
I'm saying
but
this
that's
was
what
the
it sounds like.
downside.
None of them know how the journalistic process looks like, do they? Elite at the top.
I'm saying that every system has upsides and downsides, right? A really big upside of that system is there was an editor involved, and I think the fact that editor is no longer involved today is a real downside for how we are getting information. So, you know, like, I think I think the fact that all of these algorithms exist to addict you, like they literally keep psychologists on staff to figure out how to addict you. I don't have an immediate answer for this, but I wonder if there's a role for us to take a more active, regulatory position in asking how is so much social media affecting people's brains, right? When the Facebook whistleblower came out,
Is she a flat
she
earther?
was
Who
giving
knows?
all kinds of instances from Facebook's own internal studies about what Instagram is doing to an entire generation of young women's brains, and it's terrible. It's upping their suicidality. It's destroying their body image. It's leading to mental health issues. I mean, it's just across the board. It's really, really bad. And
Look at what those colorful magazines and television do to young women, destroying their self-image and leading to body harm. This is the exact same argument that was put forward in the past. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is the medium. But the argument is still the same.
I'm not going to tell you I have easy answers for this right now.
I know you don't have any answers. The only answer that you keep prattling is we need policy. That's the only thing that you repeat on a loop without actually giving any policy, interestingly enough. It's also real funny that in a debate about how stereotypes and conspiracy theories, the only example they can come up with is media elites controlling society, like a way to show that you are really not even trying to not look anti-Semitic. Shelley repeats the word directionally. That's true. That is also a thing that she does.
Because all of these problems are multifactorial, but I do think the fact that we've just basically seeded all of this, and we've said we're not going to take any role in this whatsoever. I do think that's adding to the instability that is really putting democracy at risk.
Yeah, you see, there's another.
I'm so tired.
I mostly agree with you, but there's a different way to kind of phrase it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The downside of democratization is that people are generally retarded, right? And that's just how it is, right? You know,
I don't even know what to answer to this. So many comments come to mind to this one. It's always people like this that tend to think everybody except me is stupid. Everybody except me is the arsler. Oh, the democratization has caused everybody to be the arsler except me because I'm immune to this, because I am smarter than everybody else, because I've got a big brain. But apart from me, everybody else in general is an arsler. Whatever.
Man, I remember during the height of,
if only all of them thought as hard as me. If only all of them were just as smart as me. The world would have been fixed.
Paranoia. Not to imply that COVID wasn't real or anything. I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Okay, I was about to say, come on, man. I'm trying to keep my channel monetized. Like,
no. But like, there were people. I remember one person specifically said, "You need to respect democracy and trust the experts." And I'm like, hold on, those are two completely opposing values, because an expert opinion is specifically non-democratic. It's the opinion of a learned minority that is informing the unlearned majority, right? So when you have democratization, you do hear from more voices, and
that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. So I guess representative democracy, according to ShortFatOtaku, is not real democracy. Because people, yes, they choose representatives in the government. That's democratic. But from then on, this minority just makes decisions for the majority. So the process itself, I guess, is not democratic. Past the vote. In Germany, we call it the ghost driver effect. Yes, everyone except you is driving on the wrong lane. Sure. True.
That can be a good
I'm so tired of this whole everybody's stupid except for me. I'm the only smart person in the room.
thing, but also like specialization is like I don't know what the word is. There's something that is anti-democratic but also necessary in society in order to actually try to ascertain what the truth is. The only issue is like how can you trust that, right? We are in a quagmire. Like
This
I have
person,
no solutions to this
do you
problem.
even know what democracy is?
I just know that at least on a local scale, like within
Jesus.
your own personal life, if you do your best to tell the truth, you can make things at least somewhat better for you and better for people around you. You know, if you have a platform, better for those who listen in on your platform.
If you're allowed to be honest, yes. But I think one of the bigger problems with these platforms are people are not allowed to be honest. Can we talk about for a moment, right? I know this is maybe off topic, but this is bothering me. Ethan Klein and Hamas Pike.
Oh,
I guess not. Give me a second. Hopefully
Briana
she
Wu
comes
ran
back
away.
soon.
No, don't come back, please.
I didn't kick her out, gang.
Don't come back. I
Wonder if
beg you,
she,
don't come back.
I hope her internet's okay.
I hope not. I hope it's over.
We'll give it a second.
It's
In the
not
meantime,
over.
gang, if you're enjoying this content,
No, I'm not enjoying this content. Actually, it's over. I'm done. Brianna's gone, and I'm gone together with her. So if you've enjoyed this segment of nothing, then press like, press subscribe, hit the bell, join the page, the side chat to be in this glorious company. Subscribe, donate, and you know what to do. The power is yours, as always. I'm gonna look at something more interesting now.